do we do when we are faced with enormous obstacles? How do we press through and come through this?
Hi everyone, welcome to Word for the Weekend.
Hi guys, welcome to the broadcast. Welcome indeed to Word for the Weekend, and thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for your comments and your ticks of like and subscribing and all of those things. Don't forget to share it on your page, on your social network, because together we'll get the message out. Today I've just want to ask ourselves a question, really, is what do we do when we are faced with enormous obstacles? How do we press through and come through this? Now, I know many people perhaps will turn to, maybe they will phone somebody, they'll text somebody, they'll listen to a broadcast like this, maybe even read the scriptures. That'll be a good thing to encourage ourselves by reading the scriptures. But you know, today I want to talk about a character in the Bible, probably the best known character, and that's King David. And King David was a man who faced all sorts of obstacles in his life. Loads of stuff came against him, and sometimes his own flesh came against him. Sometimes he was his own worst enemy. But he has this this title that it says that he was a man after God's own heart, and maybe another broadcast we can explore what that means and what that looked like. But I just think, in summary, he was because in all of his humanity and failings, he was a man who pressed in when he was facing the hardest situation, and he looked to God. He looked to God to help him. That's why he could write so many beautiful psalms of deliverance, or even psalms of lament and prayer. He was not the only psalmist, but he wrote a huge amount. And one of his psalms I'll focus in on today, and that's Psalm 18. We're not going to look at all the verses, but in verse 29 of Psalm 18, David says this. He says, with your help, he's talking to God. He says, with your help, I can advance against a troop. He's talking in military terms. He's talking about overcoming a physical army, a physical opponent. We're not in that same position, but he said, with God's help, I can advance against the troop. With my God, well, notice the my God, I can scale a wall. Wonderful words. Of course, we need to read the whole psalm, and I would encourage you to read the whole psalm, 50 verses there. And it cross-references to 2 Samuel 22, and where David, it's recited again, whether it's recited there the first time or whichever way, but you'll see the whole thing panned out in 2 Samuel. And in verse 30 he says these exact words, with your help, talking to God, with your help I can advance against a troop. With my God I can scale a wall. Okay, what's the background? The background, you find the background in 1 Samuel 30. In 1 Samuel 30, he comes back, he's been on a campaign, he comes back to the base, and he finds that his enemies had raided the camp. They had taken away as slaves the women and the children, and the whole camp is in uproar. You'll find it there, 1 Samuel 30, verses 1 following through. There's so much trial and trouble going on there, so much so that even his own people, his own officers, were saying it's David's fault, and they're going to take action. They're going to throw stones at him. They're going to do this. And there's this amazing verse where he says, "But David found strength. He encouraged himself in the Lord." And in that moment, he finds his strength is in God. Different translations bring it out in different ways. One translation says David was encouraged in the Lord. The New King James says he found strength. The NIV says he found strength. Well, how did he find that strength in the midst of all his troubles? We can only surmise that he reflected back of former victories, that he reflects back on how God had taken him through other trials. And I guess it would go right back to killing the lion and the bear. It would go right to killing Goliath and all the other battles that God had brought David through. And he reflects back on his own walk and his own victories. And in that reflecting back, he digs deep. Isaiah 12 says, "Therefore with joy will you draw waters from the well of salvation." You see, you need to look at Isaiah 12. You see that there is a drawing, there's a well of living water inside of us. Living waters, Jesus said, will flow. And those living waters have been flowing in the believer since the day of Pentecost. Inside you and me, if we believe in the Lord, there's a living waters, that well, that fountain of life is in us. But sometimes we have to dig deep. Sometimes we have to put the bucket down deep and draw up. And I believe this is what David does on this occasion. He draws deep and he brings up and he encourages himself. He finds strength in the Lord. And then from that, he then asks God what to do, and God tells him what to do. Go and pursue your enemies. He pursues the enemies. You'll see it all there in 1 Samuel 30. He pursues the enemies. He gets everything back, all the goods that was been stolen, the wives, the children, those that have been taken to be sold off in slavery. He gets it all back. And so to get them back, he would have had to have gone right into the enemy camp. He would have had to advance against this troop. He would have had to have scaled this wall of impossibility. And in that, he gets the victory. So I want to ask us a question today. What are our setbacks? Those setbacks come in different ways, don't they? It may be a setback that we've had a report from the doctors, or that medical that's come back that's showing the big C or some other disease, and it's a setback. And it is in that setback we need to dig deep and find our strength in the Lord. It may be a setback because of a relationship issue. It may be a setback because of our own personal failure and moral failure. It is in that time that we need to put that well down deep and say, well, God's brought me through before, he'll bring me through again. And this is what David does. He faces this setback and finds encouragement in his own testimony. And that's why he said, my God With my God, I can scale a wall. He found that encouragement, and you and I can do the same. The setback may be you haven't seen that prayer answered yet. Dig deeper. Maybe if you don't, keep a journal of your prayer requests. I know that Nicky Gumbel talks about this on the Alpha course on why and how to pray. And he reads off, in the original Alpha course, he reads off the answers to prayer that he'd written down. I prayed for this and I prayed for that. And then he dates when they get answered. And what he's doing there, he's finding strength and encouragement in himself. He's seeing what God has done in the past. So what we do, friends, is we remember past victories. Yes, we've had a few setbacks. I've had setbacks. Yes, we've had some failures. I've had some failures. Yes, we've had some reports that we've not really wanted to hear. But in those moments, we dig deep. I've done this, my friends. I remember there have been many times, and I haven't got the journal here, and I'm not a big journal person, but I do write stuff down, and I write prophetic words down. And I remember this one particular day, everything looked grey, it looked dark. I didn't know how I was going to get through the particular situation I was facing. And I just felt that prompting from God to go and look up this particular journal. And I dated it, I went in there, and I found strength. I encouraged myself in the Lord, because God said, oh, look what God did there. He brought me through this, and he brought me through that. And in that I found strength, and to pray through and get the illumination, get the revelation of where to go. And that's what we do. And so we remember past victories. It says in the book of Revelation that it says in Revelation 12:11 that they overcame by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony. So we remember past victories, and then we listen for the next instruction. That's what David did. We step out in boldness. We step out in confidence. God is a God of restoration. He restores my soul. It says in Psalm 23. He restores my soul. He restores. God restored all of Job's situation. And he actually had double what he had before, all his trouble. As several preachers have said, he had double for his trouble. He had to go through it, but he stayed strong in it. And then he has double the blessing for the trouble. And that's what happened to David. And he said, through my God, with your help, with God's help, I can advance against the troop. With my God, I can scale against the wall. Now listen to this. David had this personal relationship with his God. And now, through Jesus, all of us can have that same relationship. We can all be men and women after God's heart, because God so loved us that he gave us his Son, that he died in our place. He took our sin. He removed the obstacles. He removed the wall so that we can scale the wall. He removed the stuff so that we can have that relationship with him. So if that isn't your testimony yet, commit your life to God. Say, Jesus, please forgive me, cleanse me, come into my life, change me, transform me. I want to be one of your children. And I turn away from everything that's offensive to you, and I turn towards everything that you have for me in my life. And I begin my journey of faith. Make that your quest. And then as a child of God, you can say, my God, with your help, I can advance against the troop. With my God, I can scale any wall, any obstacle. Because as Paul writes, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. We've talked about that on a previous broadcast. Can I do all things? And you'll see that on my broadcasts on the YouTube channel. But we can do all the things. Jesus said, without me you can do nothing. Paul says that with Christ I can do all things. So each one of us can say, with God's help, we can advance against a troop or any situation that's facing us. With God's help, we can scale any wall, because He is in our life, He's in the center of our life, that He loves us. You're His son, His daughter, and He has a destiny for your life. So trust Him today, turn to Him today, whatever you're facing, and find that strength in the Lord, and you will come through. Well, I'm going to pray and wish you a good day. And if this has blessed you in any way, please get in touch, please share it, please comment and share it on your page, and we'll get the message out and encourage others to advance and scale those walls. So Father, I thank you today that you have your plan and your purpose for everyone that's watching. Lord, help each one to trust you with their lives, and help them to overcome every obstacle. In Jesus' name, amen. God bless you, friends. Until the next time.